What's going on, everyone? Welcome in to another edition of the Chief Zone podcast. I am Farzin Vasugian. It is a Wednesday. We are approaching the final preseason game for the Kansas City Chiefs. The last week 3 of the preseason coming up for all 32 NFL teams. But there's a pair of breaking news tonight involving the Kansas City Chiefs. One off the field and one football related breaking news. A lot of things to get into here. Very little time to waste on the docket for today's podcast. We will talk about the preseason game. But before we get into that, boy, a pair of breaking news pieces dropped. One of them almost 2 hours ago, the other one within the last hour. There's one big breaking news involving Andy Reid, where he was in his office. This was 15 months ago, to be very clear, May of 2024. This information is just coming out tonight. But Andy Reid was in his office, according to the Kansas City Star, and right after midnight, a bullet was fired into the Chiefs practice facility. Andy Reid was in his office where the bullet went through. Thankfully, Andy Reid was not hurt. He was not hurt, but there are some big details out of that. And I'll share some of the details from the Kansas City Star and the police report. Very surprising. This just came out tonight. So we'll talk about that. Also, the other big piece of breaking news tonight, Chiefs wide receiver Skyy Moore, no longer a Chiefs wide receiver. He has been traded to the San Francisco 49ers. The Chiefs found draft value in arguably their worst wide receiver. That is a celebration in and of itself. We'll talk about that, what it really means, and what the Chiefs got in return. Spoiler alert, it's really not that much, though you probably already knew. And I'll give you guys my 5 players who need to step up and kind of show something in this preseason finale. All of that and more here on this episode of the Chief Zone podcast. I want to let you know this podcast is brought to you by SeatGeek. That is where I get all of my sports tickets from SeatGeek. As a matter of fact, I'll be going to the Chiefs preseason finale Friday night thanks to SeatGeek. And then 24 hours later, I'll be in Lawrence for their season opener as KU football shows off its new renovated stadium. Also, thanks to my friends over at SeatGeek. And if you guys want to catch any of the football action this year, NFL, college football, whatever it may be, go to SeatGeek.com, get your tickets, and at checkout, enter my promo code FARZIN, and you'll save $20 off your first order from SeatGeek. Go to SeatGeek.com at checkout. Enter my promo code FARZIN if you're a new SeatGeek customer, and you get to save $20 off your first purchase from SeatGeek. All right. A lot of things to get into tonight. Very little time to waste. Let's get right into it. We have the breaking news of the night. Actually, 2 big pieces of breaking news involving the Kansas City Chiefs. Let's start with the one that's most recent that just came out within the hour, and that is Skyy Moore. He has been traded to the San Francisco 49ers. I have no idea how the Chiefs were able to get something out of Skyy Moore, but they did. They got something from Skyy Moore. I don't know what exactly, but somehow, some way, the Chiefs were able to get trade value in Skyy Moore. Now, I'll explain the situation a little bit as to why the 49ers maybe went for Skyy Moore specifically. I mean, maybe he wasn't the specific player they were after, but Adam Schefter shed some light on this. This is from his tweet saying the Chiefs are sending Skyy Moore to the 49ers. The 49ers have been decimated with injuries at the wide receiver position. Brandon Ayuk is recovering from a knee injury. Juwan Jennings has been dealing with a calf injury. Jordan Watkins has a high ankle sprain. And Demarcus Robinson, a former Kansas City Chief, is facing a 3-game suspension. That was just announced today for using a banned substance. I'll be honest, I have not looked into the details of the Demarcus Robinson deal. I saw a headline, didn't really bother looking into that, but was kind of surprised to hear about that with Robinson. Kind of unfortunate. But yeah, I mean, the 49ers, they're going to be without a lot of wide receivers to start the season, so they need to go get some before these roster guys. I guess here's the thing. If you're trading for a player, maybe that team, in this case, the 49ers, felt like if Skyy Moore was going to get cut, he was going to get picked up by another team. And they felt like they had to move quickly to get this to happen. Now, what do the Chiefs get in return? It's really not much. It is a 2027 6th round and 7th round swap. So the Chiefs will receive a 6th round pick. The 49ers will get a 7th round. So the 49ers are actually getting more in this trade. Maybe they really wanted Skyy Moore that bad that they were willing to give something, and maybe the Chiefs were surprised. Hey, you guys really need a wide receiver this badly? Okay, we're not asking much. That's probably how the conversation went between the Chiefs and the 49ers. And Brett Veach somehow was able to get something out of Skyy Moore. I cannot get over that fact. I'm not trying to be insulting. I mean, come on, but here's my thing. I've always said, whenever you criticize someone heavily, like Skyy Moore has been, you've got to bring the same level of energy when they do something good. And give credit to Skyy Moore. I said it on the podcast last Saturday morning when we were recapping the game against Seattle. I fell asleep when this happened, so I completely missed it. But if you had a chance to watch it live, or you caught the replay or the highlights, whatever, however you saw it, Skyy Moore looked pretty damn good on that punt return. Some of the things that we've heard about Skyy Moore in the scouting report leading up to the 2022 NFL draft, he showed off in that punt return. His ability to have that burst of speed, make a defender miss, take advantage of some blocking and some holes there, and be able to break away for a big gain, for a big catch and run. We haven't seen much of that from Skyy Moore, unfortunately, since he's become a Kansas City Chief. I think maybe his best game where he was able to show off some of that stuff was against the Jacksonville Jaguars. Other than that, I mean, you have to really go through and nitpick, like, what are some of Skyy's best games? That punt return against Cincinnati, and then 2 weeks later, the corn dog play against the Eagles in the Super Bowl. I don't know. I mean, there's really not much. There aren't a lot of highlights involving Skyy Moore. So, again, the fact that the Chiefs were able to get something was pretty impressive. I said last week, the Chiefs will not get anything for Skyy Moore. I said that. I was the dumbass who said that. And I said that I would admit it if I was wrong. And damn it, I was wrong on this one. Glad to be wrong, though. Certainly did not see that coming. I suppose it's not too big of a surprise given what San Francisco's going through right now, but was this really the option? Like, was this high on their list of options? I don't know. Maybe they met with other teams and just didn't get much. I don't know. Maybe trade talks weren't working so well, so they were able to get something for him. They were able to get something. All right, apologies there. Don't know what happened, but we're back now. Yeah, I mean, the Chiefs found a way, and as long as you're able to, they essentially cut him and it's like you got a 6th round pick, a compensatory pick. That's kind of how I view it. But in this case, it is a trade. So Skyy Moore no longer a Kansas City Chief. He has moved on to the San Francisco 49ers. For their sake, I hope he's just a punt return guy and not a receiver. But given the injuries, man, Skyy Moore is going to be used a lot in that offense. So good luck with that if you're San Francisco. Now, the other big piece of breaking news, and Teresa, I see your question. This is the first time this has been made public. Now, I want to be very clear about this because in case someone's tuning in right this second, this happened 15 months ago. This was in May of 2024. The same offseason, the Chiefs are coming off Super Bowl 58, the Super Bowl 58 win. So a little over a year ago. But we are learning tonight, for the very first time, we're learning this information. There was a gunshot that took place at the Chiefs practice facility, and Andy Reid was inside the building when this occurred. Yes, after midnight. Andy Reid was in his office past midnight, which is not really out of the norm, I guess, for Andy Reid. If you watch the Chiefs docuseries, The Kingdom, he was leaving his home at like 3:30 in the morning. I mean, this is not out of the ordinary. Coaches are in their offices for a very long time. Some coaches probably more than others. Dude, they are in their offices for a long, long time. And Andy Reid just happened to be there past midnight. And on that very night, this is according to the Kansas City Star, by the way. I need to make sure that that gets out there. But the one big thing is, I don't know if we have the exact date when specifically in May it happened, but this was a very well kept secret, and the Kansas City Star article even acknowledges that this was pretty well kept behind closed doors. According to the Kansas City Star article, what happened was, we don't know specifically if someone got out of the car or this was a drive-by. What we do know is a gunshot was fired at the Chiefs practice facility. You guys know how the Chiefs practice facility is. It's kind of adjacent towards the this where the stadiums are, Arrowhead and Kauffman. It's kind of just out in the corner there, close to 435. And the bullet went through, got to Andy Reid's office, and it also went to his bathroom. I guess he has a personal bathroom inside the practice facility in his office. But yeah, that did happen. And according to the article, the bullet was about 15 feet away from where Andy Reid's desk is. I'm assuming he was at his desk, but please don't quote me on that because I don't think the article specified on that. But nonetheless, I mean, I think it's safe to assume he was at his desk. I don't know. But nonetheless, he was in his office when that bullet was fired. Thankfully, no one was hurt. Andy Reid was not hurt. No employee, no one that was inside the building was hurt by this. Another really important piece of information, Reid's office now has bulletproof glass. Excuse me. All of this according to the Kansas City Star. Oh, by the way, according to the article, KCPD is still investigating this, and there have been no suspects nor any arrests. Listen, this is way out of my pay grade here, but if there's an ongoing investigation, and this is something that happened 15 months ago, I mean, I don't know. Generally, do investigators look into this as much 15 months later? I don't know. Here's the other thing here, because I'm seeing this online. People are wondering if this was target. I mean, listen, whoever did this knew that this was the Chiefs practice facility. They must have thought nobody was in there and that they were just going to do something harmless, not knowing that there are people in the building, such as Andy Reid. At the very least, we know one coach was in the building. Maybe others, we're not sure. Probably safe to assume maybe there are some custodians who work overnight that are in the building. I mean, at some places, I used to work at Kauffman Stadium with the Royals media production crew, and also at 610 Sports Radio. And for those not familiar with 610 Radio, which is now called 96.5 The Fan, inside that building, it's actually a really big building for a radio station compared to a lot of radio stations out there. It's a building that has about 7 or 8 stations inside. There are like 4 or 5 music radio stations. There's a news station in there, KMBC Radio. There's also a business radio channel in there. I mean, there's a lot going on in there. It's not just one radio station. So whenever I was working there at nights, I was not the only one. There were other radio employees there as well. And then there was also custodian staff that would come in right around the time when I was leaving. So generally, these types of places do have people who work overnight doing their thing. So again, I don't know what this person's intent was. Did they just want to fire something thinking nobody was in the building? Obviously this was targeted. This is someone that wanted to do some kind of damage. Obviously, I mean, that's what people do when they fire a gun, which is a very irresponsible thing to do in a situation like this because people were inside. And on top of that, people are wondering if this was specifically targeted at Andy Reid or if this is just someone maybe just targeting the building in general. I mean, I don't really know. This is a pretty scary situation here. Thankfully, Andy Reid's okay. Thankfully, no one was hit by this bullet. But it does have some concerns here. A lot of people have questions here. And by the way, I'm seeing this already by some people using this as a conversation for the stadium deal that's going on right now, which we do have to get into. There's a little bit of an update there. Listen, KCK, which is where the Chiefs would potentially go, they've dealt with their fair share of crime as well. Now, I do understand that KCMO, boy, they've had a lot of crime just this year alone. And we're just over the halfway point of the year. The mayor's been criticized a lot, Mayor Quentin Lucas, for his handling of things, the fact that this is going on over and over again. There have been a laundry list of incidents in the Kansas City, Missouri area regarding these kinds of things. And people are wondering, is this another reason to add to the list as to why the Chiefs should leave? Listen, if this was May of 24, when this just happened, I would say maybe, put that topic to the side a bit, but this was 15 months ago. So look, do I think the Chiefs should consider leaving the Truman Sports Complex simply because of the crime in Kansas City, Missouri alone? Yeah, I think so. Now, again, you'll get crime everywhere. I mean, when you look at the Kansas City metro area as a whole, you can find a lot of crime across the areas, obviously some more than others. And what's been going on specifically in Kansas City, Missouri has a lot of people concerned. I mean, the local media has been covering this a lot. Mayor Quentin Lucas has had to explain himself many times and has had to address these issues many times in this city. I mean, it's been a pretty serious deal here, but hopefully they figure it out. Generally speaking, when these things are ongoing for the last 15 months, you may not see a positive ending in this, meaning they might not catch you who did this. I do have some questions as to whether or not what security cameras captured. Was it someone who got out of their car? Was this a drive-by? Was this person alone? I mean, I get it was dark because it happened right after midnight, so there's no way of, well, depending on some cameras and maybe where certain cameras might be located, but was this person alone in the vehicle? There are a lot of questions as to how exactly this happened. When you're driving by the stadium gates, as long as there's no game going on, you can get in there. I mean, I've done it before, taking pictures and whatnot of the stadium in the area. Well, I'm sure a lot of you guys have as well. I see it on Instagram and other social media sites. But that practice facility specifically, you cannot go in there unless you have a badge. There is security right at that gate. I remember one time I was going in there. There were two people inside that, inside the booth, the gate that they're in. This is a pretty concerning deal for sure. And some people are kind of upset that this was kept quiet. Honestly, I don't have too big of an issue with that. I guess to me is what safety precautions are being taken or have been taken other than Andy Reid's office windows being bulletproof glass. What other safety measures have been taken to make sure this doesn't happen again? Because again, there are some people who like to go out to the Truman Sports Complex. If there isn't a Chiefs game or Royals game, take some pictures, maybe just visit, whatever it is anyone wants to do. But it is a scary situation for sure. Here's the bad part about the timing of this coming out is Andy Reid spoke to the media today. And the next time we get to hear from Andy Reid will be Friday night after the Chiefs play the Bears. And you know what Andy Reid's post-game press conference is going to look like. Either he comes out and he speaks about the game with injuries, and the media is going to immediately ask about this incident rather than the game, or Andy Reid can do this, and he's done this several times whenever any updates came out about his son, Britt Reid, involving the incident from January of 2021. Anytime an update came out about Britt Reid, Andy Reid would walk into a press conference room and he would immediately start off by saying that he would not answer any questions about Britt. So he can start off this press conference by saying, hey, we're not going to answer any questions about the incident that you guys just learned about. And at that point, I mean, the media's, they can ask all they want, but Andy Reid's not going to answer anything. Maybe he'll take the time to answer it in a more comfortable setting. Generally speaking, around this time of year, you'll hear from, when I say this time of year, I'm talking after the preseason. You'll probably hear from Brett Veach and probably Clark Hunt as well. And I would imagine Clark Hunt would field some of those questions about security and what's been done, in addition to possibly stadium questions as well. Andy just needs to say no comment here to talk about that's probably something along those lines. While we're at it, because I know we mentioned the stadium thing, I was going to save it for later in the podcast, but I had the rundown ready, and then boom, the Andy Reid news came out, and then the Skyy Moore news. Like, oh great, we got to audible here on our rundown. But I'll bring it up now since I mentioned it already, and this has been brought up in the comments here. Ty Masterson, the Kansas State Senate president, was on Pete Mundo's show on Monday on KCMO Talk Radio, and Pete just asked the question, hey, where are you on the stadium situation? This was, and I thought about this the other day, because the stadium front, that news has been kind of quiet for a while now. People just want to hear a decision at this point. And Ty Masterson said that he's not a gambling man, but he would bet on the Chiefs and the Royals to come to Kansas. Pete then asked, is there one that you would favor more of moving? He said probably the Royals, but he said he would still bet on both of them. So twice, and he said this with confidence, he said he would bet on the Chiefs and the Royals to move to Kansas. Now, if you've listened to any interview Ty Masterson has done, and he's done several of these ever since, especially since the extension of the Star Bonds, he's not someone that really speaks much. Whenever you hear an interview, the person that's being interviewed, they'll elaborate on things, whether it's on TV, radio, wherever. Ty Masterson, he will say as little as he needs to. So if you want a very specific answer out of Ty Masterson, you need to ask a very detailed and elaborate question. And Pete, Pete's very good at this, so he asked the questions that needed to be asked. But he made it very clear that he's confident that they're going to move. He said specifically with the Chiefs, for both teams, he said it's about business. He mentioned for the Chiefs, he sees the sentimental value in Arrowhead Stadium. I think everyone does as well. But he did say that they've got to think about the next 60 years. And listen, he's right. I've said this before. Whatever decision the Chiefs make, whether it's to renovate Arrowhead Stadium or they want to move and possibly get a dome in Kansas, this is a decision that they have to live with for several decades. If you choose to renovate Arrowhead, you might not get that Super Bowl that Clark Hunt was trying to get roughly 20 years ago. Yes, we did see East Rutherford, New Jersey, the Meadowlands. They got their outdoor Super Bowl in February of 2014 or 2015. I think it was the Seahawks blowout win over the Broncos. I know Buffalo is building a new stadium, and the hope is that they will be able to host a Super Bowl, even in Buffalo, outdoors. It's a brand new outdoor stadium. You don't hear a lot about brand new outdoor stadiums now. Whenever you hear about a new stadium for the Commanders, For the Browns, and I know the Bears are kind of in the hunt for this right now. I think the Bengals are considering some options down the road in the future, but there's you just hear about indoor stadiums now. The only team that's building a brand new outdoor stadium is Buffalo. And I know a lot of you guys keep mentioning, oh, well, football is meant to be played outdoors. Okay, I got you. But we're getting more and more indoor stadiums now. A third of the stadiums right now are indoors. By 2031, whether the Chiefs are part of it or not, half the stadiums, or maybe even more than half the stadiums, are going to be indoors. So this is a trend that we're going to see more and more of. And maybe none of us will be around, but we're going to get to a point one day where outdoor stadiums, I mean, that is going to be a thing in the past. There are going to be very, very, very few teams that will have indoor stadiums, outdoor stadiums, kind of like how you're seeing with training camp. If you watch the Bills Hard Knocks series, they mentioned on there that the Bills are one of 6 teams that go to a university for training camp. Obviously, the Chiefs are one of those 6 teams as well. So you are seeing a shift in some of the ways that the NFL operates and how teams operate on certain things. I know some people don't like that. I get it. But that's kind of the direction the league's going in with their stadiums. I hope I'm saying your name correctly. Kia Yaha. Hope I got your name right there. Do you think the Chiefs there will be another Chiefs trade? That's a really good question. The Chiefs were involved in a couple of trades last year. They traded for Peyton Hendershot, and they also traded for somebody else last year, right during the cuts. I can't recall who that was. I can't recall who the second player was, but the Chiefs did trade for 2 players during the roster cuts from 90 to 53, did they not? Peyton Hendershot was one. I can't recall who the other one was. Maybe you guys can help me out in the chat. Jake says need a dome. Charlie says just saw where they redid a few rows for Arrowhead for the World Cup coming in next year. Yes. So you're really not going to notice a difference if you're watching the game. If you're at this stadium, maybe you'll notice something. I'm not exactly sure. But yeah, there are retractable seats. And the reason they're doing that is to meet the standard requirements to host FIFA soccer games. Specifically with the width of the field. So the Chiefs have had to make some adjustments there. And that's why you saw all of the construction this past offseason at Arrowhead Stadium. I believe it's a $51 million project. So they're not quite done. They're going to continue that next offseason as well. And they'll prepare for the FIFA World Cup, which is going to be a lot of fun to see. Can't believe the Chiefs got trade value. Yeah, I'm just as shocked as you are that they somehow got something out of Skyy Moore. Props to Brett Veach. And listen, sometimes that's how these things happen. You see other teams deal with injuries. Well, they try to trade for one of your guys. Kind of like last year when Deshaun Watson got injured, the Chiefs kept Bailey Zappi on the practice squad. But the Browns needed a quarterback, so they claimed Bailey Zappi as their backup off Kansas City's practice squad, and that allowed Chris Oladokun to come back and get a job. See, it's weird how it all works out. The Deshaun Watson injury essentially allowed Chris Oladokun to find his way back in the NFL because he was a free agent. No, he was just at home on the couch. Maybe working a part-time job, I don't know, but that is how these things work out sometimes. The injuries in San Francisco and the suspension to Demarcus Robinson, that led to Skyy Moore getting an opportunity. And listen, Skyy Moore was not going to make it in Kansas City. No way. But in San Francisco, given how thin their receiving core is right now, Skyy Moore is going to play a lot. Listen, his numbers might actually be higher than they would have ever been in Kansas City. So we'll see how that all works out for him with the 49ers. All right, a couple of other news and notes to get into here. The Chiefs did have their last press conference of the week before Friday's preseason finale against Chicago. Well, let's start with Andy Reid because he was asked about the way he changed the preseason lineup, not using the starters last week, but is planning on using them this week, which he said, because he was asked how long those starters are going to be out there for. He said he'll play it by ear. And he was asked about changing the lineup. Starters in week 1, not many of them in week 2, but then back to week 3. He mentioned the gap between week 3 of the preseason and week 1 of the regular season. Because keep in mind, the Chiefs play Friday. That is going to be that'll be exactly 2 weeks. Yeah, because their first regular season game is on a Friday in Brazil. So the Chiefs will have exactly 2 weeks in between games. Keep in mind, back when there were 4 preseason games, unless you played on a Thursday night, if you played on Sunday, you had 10 days in between games. If you played Monday Night Football, you had 11 days. So it is very different now than how it used to be with, week 4 of the preseason was just a little over a week for most teams. The only 2 teams because everyone played on Thursday night for that week 4 preseason game, if I remember that correctly. Now in week 3 of the preseason, which is the final week, you still have games spread out across the weekend. It's not just everyone playing on the same day. So Andy Reid was asked about that and how that's kind of changed and how that's different over the years. So wonder what Jerick McKinnon is doing. Teresa says the Psalm on the Kingdom. Yeah, that is Jerick McKinnon's out there. He hasn't played for a couple of years. I mean, generally when someone has not played for a couple of years, means that, the odds of them being signed now are pretty slim. I'm not saying it's impossible, but I think the Chiefs are fine at the running back position. I mean, they have Isaiah Pacheco. Kareem Hunt, I know, is dealing with a minor injury, nothing too serious. I think Elijah Mitchell is going to make the team. And I know they like Brashard Smith, the rookie they got in the 7th round from SMU. So I think they're going to be, I don't think they're going to really seek McKinnon anytime soon. Jackson on Instagram is saying when the episode about Andy Reid, so the second episode focused a lot on Andy Reid, and it also brought up Andy Reid's son, Garrett Reid, who died of a drug overdose in Philly. And there was a lot of focus on that. I'll recap the Kingdom another time. I actually wanted to do it tonight, but because of all the topics we've got going on right now, probably not the best night to do it. But in that episode, again, it was a strong focus on Andy Reid and his family. I was a little surprised they did not touch on, actually really surprised they did not touch on Britt Reid, because in that episode, Tammy Reid, Andy's wife, she got emotional and was talking about how that family has been through a lot, and they have been. They certainly have. And they show a picture of Super Bowl 54, the family smiling. In that picture, you do see Britt Reid. You also see Britt Reid's ex-wife at the time they were married. She filed for divorce after his sentencing. And I was a little surprised that, they showed that family picture, which Tammy was saying was a special moment because of everything they went through. But the interview that she did was done, I would imagine, recently. Well, I take that back, because that interview took place, 10 days after the Super Bowl, and they were in Cali somewhere at the beach. So that interview was filmed before the shooting occurred. This alleged shooting that happened at the practice facility. Anyway, my point is, she made a comment saying that the family had been through a lot. And I was thinking about this earlier as well. Maybe she was also referring to not just the Britt Reid incident, but also the incident at the practice facility. But that, I believe that interview was done before. I believe that was done before the incident at the practice facility. I could be wrong, but nonetheless, I mean, that family has been through a lot, though. No question about it. Charlie says maybe a little horn for the red hot Royals. Hey, why not, man? Don't they have the best winning streak right now in baseball? Yeah, why not? Let's do it. Bobby Witt Jr. making some history as well. That's good to hear. The Commanders, yeah. He might not get traded, though. They might cut him. They might cut him, Blake, which is a little bit of a surprise to me. I mean, they've already got the Terry McLaurin thing going on. I don't know. Jake's asking, why is the practice facility incident just now being brought up to attention? I don't know. I don't have an answer for you. In that Kansas City Star article, they even acknowledge that this was a well-kept secret for 15 months. Remember last year, we learned about Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce, their homes being broken into? We did not learn about that right away. That took a couple of weeks before it became public news. When it happened with Joe Burrow, everyone learned about it right away. The next day, it was in the news. I don't know why it happened that way with Mahomes and Kelsey's homes, but with Burrow's home, it was out there pretty quickly. But yeah, I mean, sometimes I will say this: not everything is well kept behind closed doors, but the Chiefs do a good job of keeping things behind closed doors. And I know a lot of people do not like this person that I'm about to quote. But Kevin Keatsman once said that people in the media, and I'm trying to think of the exact quote, I might have to paraphrase here. They don't share everything they know, because a lot of times people in the media will be told things, and if you're told something and you're not, it's kind of an extreme story, and you need to find another source to verify it. You got to be careful with what you leak out there and what you don't leak out there. I'll say this: having worked in the media, being in newsrooms and whatnot, dude, you hear a lot of stories. Journalists, reporters, sometimes. I remember when I was working for the Lawrence Journal of the World. I'll just leave it at that. I'm not going to get into specific names. But we're watching the Royals as the night goes on. Working in a newsroom can have really long nights. I'll tell you that now. I've worked in the Lawrence Journal of the World newsroom and the Kansas City Star newsrooms. It's a boring life. It really is. But journalists will get together, sit around if they're in the building, and you just hear conversations, and they'll share some things that they don't want out there. And I'll keep those conversations private because I myself cannot even verify those things. But there are a lot of things that people in the media know that they won't ever put publicly because they either, one, can't verify it 100% and need to make sure they're accurate on this kind of thing. Because two, some of these things can be a little wacky. Like if someone from the Chiefs told me this whole thing about Andy Reid, I would have been like, dude, are you for real? Like, I would not run with it and post it anywhere because I would not know, like, where would I even prove any of this? Okay, Jim says a couple of weeks is a lot faster than 50 months. Okay, point taken. But still, like, don't you think a story like that would come out sooner? Because my point, comparing it to Joe Burrow, the story of his home being broken into, it came out in 12 hours. You did not see it wait for a couple of weeks. Because I think a story like Mahomes and Kelsey, their homes being broken, especially Kelsey, because he's always in the news all the time now. You would think that would come out a lot sooner. Yes, you're right. A couple of weeks is way faster than 15 months, of course. Still a couple of weeks too long in the news cycle we're in today, especially with social media, where a lot of this stuff just runs wild. 20 years ago, if we did not have social media and we just relied on local radio or the 10 p.m. news or the newspaper, a lot of people would not know about this Andy Reid story until they either watch the 10 p.m. news or until the next morning when they pick up the Kansas City Star. So, yeah, journalism's changed quite a lot over the years. Blake says, with Moore being traded, all but locks in a roster spot for Thornton and or Brownlee. I know a lot of people are going off that touchdown catch that Brownlee had with Patrick Mahomes in the Week 1 game. I mean, listen, that's a simple fade route there where Brownlee just turned to his right where the defender had no chance at the ball. Listen, I'm not taking credit away from him, but Jason Brownlee, did something that a lot of other NFL receivers could have done in that situation. So Skyy Moore could have done that as long as he holds on to the ball. But let's say, okay, question for you guys in the chat. And I'll keep an eye on Instagram as well. I know that's the one I don't keep an eye on the most. How many wide receivers do you think will be on the team? Roster cuts are going to be next Tuesday afternoon. How many wide receivers will the Chiefs have? I'm thinking 6, maybe 7. I want to know what you guys think before I give who I think will make the team. Because whatever the majority is here on this, we'll do like a fun vote right now. Whatever the majority is, we'll go with that many receivers. I'm thinking. Let me just look myself. I'm thinking it could be 7 receivers. 7 is my prediction. Okay, you guys are saying 7 in the chat. A couple people on Instagram saying 7. I see 1-6. Yeah, a lot of people think it's going to be 7. Okay, so here are my 7 wide receivers because I do agree with that. Worthy, Brown, Rice, and I'm saying Rice because it appears he will not be suspended for at least week 1. Might not be until week 5. But we got those 3 there. Worthy, Brown, and Rice. Smith-Schuster, Royals. Thornton is 6. And I think Remigio will be 7. I think Jason Brownlee is the first wide receiver that's going to go to the practice squad. And I think right behind him will be Elijah Badger. Unless they really like somebody else. But that's how I see it. Those are going to be your 7 receivers. Worthy, Brown, Rice, Smith-Schuster, Royals, Thornton, and Remigio, and then Brownlee and Holiday are going to be your practice squad receivers. I actually said earlier, I thought Skyy Moore could have been a practice squad guy, but obviously another team wanted his services, which I did not anticipate happening, but that is the way it all panned out. Real quickly, let me get the Rashee Rice thing out of the way. Adam Schefter on his podcast, he was talking about the Rashee Rice situation regarding the potential suspension here. Let me pull this up just to make sure I have the right information that's being put out there regarding Rice, because there is some confusion and some mixed reports about what exactly the NFL wants in terms of the total number of suspensions. So Adam Schefter is saying that Rashee Rice's suspension is closer to 6 games rather than 3 games, and 5 is probably what they're going to end up ultimately agreeing on. There were reports, and I think specifically from Albert Breer, that the league wanted a 10-game suspension, a double-digit game suspension. Drew Davenport, Football Guy staff who listened to the podcast, he said that the NFL is asking for 8 games, according to Adam Schefter. So if they want 8 and they find a way to drop it to 6 or 5, I suppose that's not bad. Here's what I will say. I get the first 4 weeks. That is a gauntlet for the Chiefs. I know the Giants are part of that 4, but it is a road primetime game, and you know how it is for the home team when they get to host a primetime game. Jake says need him for the playoff run. See, that's my thing. If this drags out for a long time and they're not able to reduce it, I get very concerned as to whether or not he will be available for the second half of the season. Because I'm thinking of December and January. Forget the playoffs for a moment here. But that as important as that is, I want Rice to be available when the Chiefs try to go down the stretch. and try to get a number 1 seed. And if it can't be number 1, maybe number 2. And I also want Rice to be available for the playoffs, as you said, Jake. My whole thing right now, I would prefer, as difficult as the first 4 games are, I would prefer that he start the season with that suspension and he can come back at the midway point. That's my concern here, is if this drags out, which for now it appears it's going to drag out into week 5. Now there is the possibility of the NFLPA and the league to come to some sort of an agreement and prevent the hearing from Officer Sue Robinson. They still have that option. That is always on the table. Because the way I view it is, yeah, Rice is okay. I mean, he's healthy, ready to go. He's been going full speed in training camp. I mentioned, to me, he was the most impressive player in training camp for the Chiefs this year. But given that he is coming off season-ending injury, and I know that injury happened in week 4 or 5, whatever that was, it wouldn't hurt if he started the season away from football, not having to play any games. Take a little bit of that extra time, train on your own until you're allowed back in the facility, because I think you have to stay away from the facility for a certain period of time, depending how long the suspension is. And get ready to rock and roll when you come back in week 6, 7, 8, whenever that'll be. Because when he comes back mid-season, he'll be a fresh body that'll be available, ready to go. If he starts the season playing the first 4 games, okay, fine. But I suppose he could use the 6-week break or whatever it could end up being to recover, relax, train, do all those things, and hopefully come back stronger and faster, and again be a fresh body whenever that'll be. I hope it's not late December, because the Chiefs need him preferably by the time December starts. Teresa is saying he could serve his jail time during the suspension. He could, but that would not be a smart idea. Listen, I've never been to jail, so I'm not the greatest source on this. I don't think you can really stay in good shape when you're in jail. Remember that Chiefsaholic documentary that came out? Because, he made a big deal about how physically fit he is. And in that documentary, when he was getting picked up by the bondsman, he talked about how he lost like 15 pounds of muscle or something in there. I think in these movies where you see a scene from jail, I guess the stereotype is that, prisons or not prison, excuse me, jail rather, they have a weight bench, but athletes use more than just a weight bench. So he would be doing himself and the team a disservice by serving this jail time during the suspension, because he would not be in the greatest shape coming back from that. He would have to serve that in the off season for sure. Let's hope the Chiefs win the Super Bowl in February. You win the Super Bowl, you go celebrate the parade. If you got to do like a quick media tour for yourself, do that. But get the hell in there, serve the 30 days, and get the hell out. Get her over with. Yeah, I mean, you're not the only one, Teresa. A lot of people have thought about that as well. I've seen that idea get thrown around a lot. Let's see. Other notes from the press conference. Leo Chenal was asked about his moment on the Kingdom. Obviously, they highlighted the game where he blocked the field goal against Denver. And his rookie season, he asked Travis Kelce for an autograph jersey. And I guess Kelce didn't really react to that too well, because he felt like this was just someone that wanted an autograph. I get that. If you guys are UFC fans, I remember John Bones Jones was on Joe Rogan's podcast a couple of years ago, and he shared a story about how he was training with some fighters, and all the fighters wanted a picture with him. And John Jones' thought was, okay, are these people training here because they want to train, or do they want a picture with me? I can understand that perspective. Like, yeah, I get it. And I understand Leo's perspective as well. I mean, listen, if I was a football player that just got drafted to the Chiefs, I'd probably want a picture with Mahomes and a signed jersey. Like, who wouldn't? I mean, come on. I'm sure there are Bengals players that get drafted that want Joe Burrow signed memorabilia. Same with Josh Allen in Buffalo. I would imagine same with Tyreek in Miami. So I would imagine there's some of that going on. But Leo Chenal in the docuseries says that he approached Travis Kelce after that game where he blocked the field goal and he got a signed jersey, kept it in his gun safe. He showed it off to the ESPN camera crew, and he was asked about that today. And Leo said something very interesting. He said that he considers it an honor that he's even a teammate of Travis Kelce, and talked about how good of a guy he is. Talked about how essentially that Travis Kelce has been a mentor for him. Here's my thing about Travis Kelce, because you hear all these people who get annoyed with Kelce just because of his relationship with Taylor Swift and all. Whenever you hear players get asked about who their biggest mentor is, you get a lot of people saying, like, for example, I'm trying to think of an example. Like Ashton Gelati. If you ask him who his biggest mentor has been, he'll probably say George Karlaftis or Chris Jones. Omar Norman Lott might say the same thing because they're both defensive linemen. But George Karlaftis was asked this training camp who his biggest mentor has been on the team, because he signed that extension. So, you know, the media was asking questions about his time in KC so far, and he's going to be here longer now. Who his biggest mentor has been, he said Travis Kelce, a guy on the other side of the field. Not Chris Jones, not any defensive lineman. Now, to be clear, Karlaftis many times has shouted out Chris Jones for how Chris has mentored him. Same with Frank Clark and Carlos Dunlap. But the first name he gave was Travis Kelce, and he talked about how Travis has been a big mentor to him. And now you have Leo Chenal, who's praising Kelce the same way. It's not alignment, not trying to say there's friction or anything like that. No, not at all. But my point is, it just shows you, even the guys on the other side of the football, on the defensive side, they value Kelce's presence that much. I talked to Noah Gray last month, and I asked him what his first impression of Travis Kelce was. And he was very quick to say humble. And he talked about how when Noah Gray, when he talked about the year he was the rookie in 2021, just how much Travis Kelce cared for him and all the other rookies, trying to look out for them, trying to help them improve. Because, you know, in his situation, you would think a guy like that might not look out for you, and he would be more focused on his craft and continue to do elite things, which Kelce has done over his career. But he's always looking out for the young guys too. And that, you know, isn't too big of a surprise to me, because I still remember when Alex Smith got traded, Kelce quickly took to social media to shout him out. Because keep in mind, that was a year when a lot of people were fed up with Alex Smith and the limitations, and they wanted to see that switch to Mahomes happen sooner. But Kelce, man, don't forget when Kadarius Toney had that ball go off his hands against New England, and it happened for the 100th time that year. There was that viral photo of Kelce putting his arms around Toney as they're heading to the locker room after the game, and Kelce addressed that on the podcast because it was too big. Everyone was talking about it, so he had to address it. Kelce just doesn't give up on guys. He's a lot like Dick Vermeil. He is a player's version of Dick Vermeil. He will always have your back. He will never give up on you, even when you're having your worst day. And if you're consistently bad, that dude will always have your back. That's just the way Travis Kelce's always been. So that was cool to hear Leo Chenal say the things that he said about Travis Kelce today. The other thing I want to get into is Juju Smith-Schuster. Juju had a lot of interesting things to say. He praised Tyquan Thornton, who he knows from back in his time with New England, talking about how he has grown and how well he has picked up this offense, and talked about how this offense is not easy to learn. Another thing Juju was asked about was his offseason and specifically how he focused on himself this offseason and training better, saying he's physically in the best shape. Let me just say this, because he talked about how he moved to. Somebody asked him, and it was a good question. What did he do to be in better shape? And he talked about how he moved to San Diego, surrounded himself with people that he trained with twice a day, and basically got better physically. Let me just say this, because I think one of the most overblown things in sports, and I have felt for this in the past, is when an athlete says, I'm in the best shape of my life. And everyone gets excited when they hear that. Oh, this guy said he's in the best shape of his life. Oh, he looks slimmer. He looks leaner. He looks great. I saw him at this event. I saw him in practice. He looks very good. He looks faster. I've heard that song and dance many times. Many, many times. In fact, we've been hearing it about Travis Kelce this offseason. I remember Orlando Brown, and you could see it physically, especially if you had a before and after photo. Orlando Brown supposedly got in much better shape, but he ended up leading the NFL in pressures allowed his last year with the Chiefs. Look, professional athletes, they're professional athletes. They're supposed to be in great shape. Now, no professional athlete is ever going to say, man, I'm not in the best shape of my life. That was 5 years ago. No athlete will ever say that. Do I believe Juju's in the best shape of his life? Yes, I believe it. Is that going to translate to anything different on the field? I don't know. I suppose we'll know when the games happen, when he's on the field. That's the only way we'll know for sure. I'll say this, though. I've seen this many times. I've heard this many times. The end result is usually still the same, even before the player got into the best shape of their life. So I'm not really going too crazy over this kind of thing until I'll see. I'll believe it when I see it. I'll put it that way. Not trying to be negative. I'm a big fan of Juju. I was glad he came back to Kansas City, and I'm glad he re-signed this offseason. I'm glad to see Kelce did all the things he needed to do to improve physically in the offseason. But I'm still at a point where I'll believe that stuff when I see it. Actions speak louder than words. And no, practice highlights aren't really they're not going to do too much for me. Here's another thing I think sports fans do. A lot of times athletes, especially in the offseason or when they're recovering from surgery or an injury, they'll post photos of themselves working out. Like, for example, Rashee Rice was training around January, February, trying to make some progress with his recovery. And I saw a lot of people say, oh, Rashee Rice looks like he's in great shape. Yeah, he should be. He's a professional athlete. I remember one year, Eric Hosmer, it was just a picture of him lifting weights, and you could see all the sweat on his shirt. And I had a friend text me. He goes, dude, Eric Hosmer looks like he's in wonderful shape. He should be. He's a professional athlete. Like, those photos don't do anything for me. Those training videos don't do anything for me. Because that's what athletes do. Whenever, let's say I'm recovering from an ACL injury and I have surgery and I go through the physical therapy process. And then let's say a professional athlete also goes through the exact same injury as me at the exact same time. And he also goes through the physical therapy deal. The physical therapy plan, that stuff is always built for like the laziest, least physical person in the world. Professional athletes are always going to be ahead of whatever physical therapy plan the average person goes through in a recovery process. The only time they'll ever have a setback is if something went wrong with the surgery or they re-aggravated the injury and they have to have maybe a second surgery. That unfortunately does, not often, but that does happen from time to time. So a lot of times when people talk about being in great physical shape, or guys that look great in their training, recovering from an injury. Cool. Don't get me wrong. They should look like that. But I'm not putting too much stock in all of that until I see it on the field. That's the most important thing to me. Last example, I remember Justin Houston looked great in training videos. Unfortunately, we really didn't see the same Justin Houston after he returned from that injury. So hopefully the Chiefs will be better on. I think the most important thing, I think Travis Kelce will be better this year. Statistically, will he see an improvement? I don't know, but I still think he'll get more involved, because if the wide receivers are healthy, and hopefully they will be this year, and we'll see with Rice's suspension how many games and when that'll be, I think having the key receivers be available, which was not a thing last year, that'll help Travis Kelce. Not because he went through a new training regimen and got him physical better shape. Don't get me wrong, I believe he's in better shape, but I think he's going to be better now because of his surroundings, and hopefully there's no injury bug that goes around this year like it did last year. But a lot of that stuff we have to wait and see how that all looks. Okay. Real quickly, 5 players that I think need to step up and show me something in Friday's game against the Bears. Number 1, Carson Steele. He's had a very quiet preseason, the complete opposite of what he had last year. I thought there was a possibility Carson Steele might have been on the 53-man roster if Rice started the season with a suspension. It appears that's not necessarily going to be the case. So Carson Steele the Chiefs might remove the fullback position if Rice is available, and they might go with 7 receivers. I think another player on offense that really needs to step up, especially if they want to make the team, I think it's got to be Jared Wiley. Jared Wiley, who they drafted last year, suffered an ACL injury to end the season. He's been very quiet in training camp and in preseason games up to this point. Whereas Robert Tonyan, he's been the Chiefs' leading pass catcher in both games. Seems like a guy that's very well on his way to making the 53-man roster. If the Chiefs are going to have 3 tight ends, Jared Wiley might be on the outside looking in. Kingsley Suamataia, he did not have a good look in last week's preseason game. I need to see Kingsley Suamataia be a better pass blocker. And I'll be honest, I'm kind of on the edge of being very concerned about that position. I know Dalton Reisner, the former K-State guard, also former Broncos player, he visited the Bengals recently. We know they need offensive line help. The Chiefs might need a help at left guard, and they might need to consider Dalton Reisner, assuming he does not sign with Cincinnati anytime soon. Word is, according to a lot of reports, that it was a great meeting and they plan to stay in touch. Chiefs might need to move quickly on that one if they feel like Kingsley's not ready to start in week 1, or if he struggles early. Number 4, Christian Fulton. I'm not sure how much Fulton will play in this game. He spent a lot of time on PUP early on in training camp. So this is someone that, I don't think he's in danger of losing a roster spot. I thought he would have started the season on PUP or IR. But it seems like he's going to play. I'd like to see some good from him, especially since the defense, I know they didn't have a lot of their starters, but I guess the defense didn't really have the greatest look. They weren't feeling too good about themselves from last week's game. Number 5 guy that needs to show me something in this one here. And I think, keep in mind, I put this list together before the podcast, before all the breaking news that came out tonight. I have Nico Remigio on here. Now, Jalen Royals had a nice 48-yard kick return last week. And also last week, Skyy Moore had the 88-yard punt return touchdown. Now, obviously, Skyy Moore is no longer on the team. So I think that's slightly good news for Nico Remigio, because when something like that happens, I kind of made me wonder, is Nico Remigio possibly on the edge with the Chiefs right now? But that's one less person competing against him for that return job. So I think Nico Remigio, I'd still like to see something from him, though. He had 2 big returns in the playoffs. He had that big 70-some-yard return to open up the divisional round. And in the AFC title game, he had that 41-yard punt return touchdown that turned into a quick touchdown drive for the Chiefs. So I still think Nico Remigio is going to be your guy. I'd like to see him do something in the preseason to try to ensure the coaching staff and try to lock up that roster spot. Real quickly, that week 1 game, which will be on YouTube if you're not in the Kansas City area, we now know the announcers for that game. It is going to be Rich Eisen and Kurt Warner. As a matter of fact, Chiefs fans, we now know who the broadcast crews will be for the first 6 games of the season. And I'm talking the TV broadcast crew. So let me pull this up real quickly here. And we'll go over the list real quickly. Some you might like, some not. But there you have it. Let me just see how it looks there. Oh, could zoom in a little bit. There we go. So week 1, I mentioned Chiefs Chargers. You'll have Rich Eisen and Kurt Warner on the TV broadcast. And week 2, when the Chiefs have their home opener against the Eagles, Kevin Burkhardt and Tom Brady will call that game for Fox. The Chiefs are not on Fox very often. So whenever Fox has the opportunity to put Tom Brady in a Chiefs game, they'll do that. They did it last year with the week 7 game, I believe, against the 49ers. They were on the call for that one. Week 3, that is going to be Sunday Night Football, obviously. Mike Tirico and Chris Collinsworth on NBC. Week 4, unless the Chiefs and or Ravens are terrible, it very well should be Jim Nantz and Tony Romo on CBS. Then we have Monday Night Football in week 5, Chiefs visiting the Jaguars. Joe Buck and Troy Aikman are on the call for that one. And then once again, for the second time in the span of 4 weeks, the Chiefs will play host to the Detroit Lions, and Mike Tirico and Chris Collinsworth will be on the call. Where's the other Sunday night game? Oh, that one is at the Giants. Okay. For a second, I thought Sunday Night Football would be in Kansas City twice, but no. You have Teresa asked a really good question. YouTube as in YouTube.com or YouTube TV? That's a good question. It is YouTube, the website, not YouTube TV. It is YouTube.com. That is where you can catch the game if you do not live in Kansas City or LA. In Kansas City, I believe it's going to be on channel 41, KSHP. I don't know what it is for the Chargers. Whichever station serves as the home of the Chargers, I believe that station will get that game in LA. So, yeah, if you're not in either of those areas, it will be on YouTube, YouTube.com, to be clear. No, that's a good question. Skyy Moore was the Dan Sorensen of the offense just when he could look worse. He does something semi-good, and we kept him. Nightmares over. Yeah. And listen, he was getting some love from the coaches. Andy Reid, Dave Tobe. And people were like, why are the Chiefs doing this? To get trade value out of him. And they got something out of him. So there you go. Why are they on YouTube.com? Money. Listen, WWE has signed this massive deal with ESPN. The UFC just signed a massive deal with Paramount. The NFL for Thursday night they're on Prime. They've got some other games that'll be on ESPN Plus. No, not Hulu. Peacock. That's the other one I was thinking of. They're both green-ish. They also have Sunday Ticket on YouTube TV. I mean, the NFL has deals left and right. You know what's funny? Like, let's say you want to sponsor a sports bar on your podcast. When you're doing that, it's usually in the contract that you can't advertise with other sports bars. Yet here you have the NFL doing partnerships with all kinds of streaming services. And they're making you sign up for all these different streaming services. Imagine that. Last thing I want to go over here. This one actually was pretty interesting, and a lot of you guys have been talking about this. 1587 Prime, the steakhouse in Kansas City, that is opening up next month. We have an official date. It is going to be September the 17th. That is when it will open. Today, reservations became available. People were able to book reservations at the restaurant. And I did a little bit of research because a lot of people are wondering why there is no menu of this yet. I'm certainly curious. In one of the videos, I took a screenshot of this and shared it. You see some things on the menu, but there's no prices there. So people want to see what's on the full menu, and they want to see the prices for all of that, as do I. But as I was trying to do some research to see if I could find a full menu or prices, I just Googled 1587 Prime. And obviously, you see Google reviews, Yelp reviews. 1587 Prime already has 31 reviews. No, keep in mind, they have not cooked a single steak for anyone other than their employees and owners. There has not been any food served publicly. And this restaurant already has 31 reviews, a 4.7 star rating. And the reviews are, hey, I'm sure it's going to be great. I love Patrick and Travis. Swifties for life. Yeah, that's the kind of reviews you're seeing on there. Here's what's even funnier. There are 2 1-star reviews. And it's always interesting, people who give a 1-star review, but they don't have an actual reason to give a 1-star review. One of those 2 people that gave a 1-star review, their profile picture is a photo of Joe Burrow. Listen, I do not want to hear a Cincinnati, because obviously Bengals fans and Chiefs fans, they fire shots at each other and all of that. And Bengals fans are so quick, bro, rent-free, bro. I do not want to hear a Bengals fan say rent-free ever again, because they keep a close eye on Chiefs games. They do. And Chiefs fans do the same with Bengals games. But come on, don't act like your fan base doesn't do that shit. I love when Bengals fans come after me. They're like, oh, you're obsessed with our team. Sure. Yeah, no, not one single Bengals fan watches the Chiefs under a microscope. Not one bit. Not one bit. Steven says, any news update? Do you think we stay in Skyy Moore? I think they end up moving, but I'm really not sure. I mean, there are nostalgic reasons to stay in Skyy Moore, and then there are business reasons to move to Kansas, if we're just being completely honest. I know people are saying, oh, no, Kansas is terrible. What reason do you have that Kansas is terrible other than you don't want them to move? Because the back and forth I'm seeing, it's just people fighting for state pride, which, to me doesn't mean much, or anything for that matter. As far as stadium update, Stephen, if you're tuning in late, we did mention earlier, Ty Masterson, the Kansas State Senate president, said in a radio interview with Pete Mundo on Skyy Moore Talk Radio, he said he is not a betting man, but he would bet on the Chiefs and Royals to move to Kansas. No, I get it. Politicians are going to... Mayor Quinton Lucas has been saying for a long time that the Chiefs and Royals are going to stay. He's had a pessimistic tone from time to time, but he's always come back around and said, yeah, they're going to stay. So someone's comments are not going to age well. We know that much. And it's going to be a politician's comments that won't age well. That makes it even better. We covered a lot here tonight. Going on more than an hour, almost an hour 15 here. Hey, a lot of viewers tonight. Obviously, we covered a lot of breaking news tonight. Thank you all for joining me live tonight on this episode of the Chiefs Zone podcast. If you enjoyed any of this podcast, please let a friend know. Tell them about the Chiefs Zone podcast. Share the link. Subscribe to the YouTube channel if you haven't done so already. Before I get out of here and before I forget, I want to remind you guys about the Deron Cherry Game Day Give Back Watch Party in just a little over 2 weeks. Obviously, the Chiefs will have their week 1 game against the LA Chargers. And if you don't have any plans for that game, well, hey, guess what? Chiefs Hall of Famer Deron Cherry, he is going to have a watch party at Holiday Distillery in Western Missouri. This is going to be a lot of fun. If you want to rub elbows with Deron Cherry and perhaps some other Chiefs alums, this is your opportunity to do that during a game. Not often you get to attend a watch party and sit close to a Chiefs Hall of Famer and some other former Chiefs players that'll be in attendance as well. I'm told they'll have a list of Chiefs alums very soon, so keep an eye out for that. But the Game Day Give Back Watch Party hosted by the Deron Cherry Foundation, that'll take place on September the 5th. So if you don't have any plans, you want to donate to a great cause here, tickets, if I'm not mistaken, are $100. Eat, drink great food and drinks at Holiday Distillery and enjoy some Chiefs football with some Chiefs fans and former Chiefs players as well. So there you have it. If you want any more information, I just commented with the link below, and I've been posting this as well on my social media, and I'll post it again tonight. It's just so everyone knows about it. All right, that'll do it for this episode of the Chiefs Zone Podcast. My name is Farzin Vasugian. Thank you all once again for watching live and joining in on the conversation for the podcast tonight. Like I said, if you enjoyed any part of this podcast, please share it with your friends. Subscribe to the Chiefs Zone Podcast on YouTube if you haven't already. Just search youtube.com/@thechiefszone, or just search the Chiefs Zone on YouTube search bar and you will find us there. Until then, we will do a pregame live chat this Friday. There won't be a halftime or a postgame live stream because I'll be at the game. However, Saturday morning, and it will be an early morning, there will be a post-game recap to go over the game between the Chiefs and the Bears and the final predictions for the roster cutdowns. Join me for that. I'm Farzin Vasugian. Thank you all for joining me. Talk to you later.